Okay, quick thing before we start the show. Big changes are happening all around us. Are you ready? In my new book, Super Shifts, we uncovered the massive transformations reshaping how we live, work, and think in the age of intelligence. From AI to the future of work, this book is your guide to navigating what's next. Get your copy of Super Shifts today, available wherever books are sold. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here. Okay, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Think Forward podcast, where we speak with futurists, innovators, and big thinkers. Come along with your host, Steve Fisher, and explore the future together.
Welcome back to Foundations and Foresight, a Think Forward series. I'm Steve Fisher, and in this episode and today, we're talking about something that will change the way you see the world. It's called systems thinking. If you've ever tried to solve a problem, whether in business, policy, or even your personal life, only to realize that fixing one thing caused 3 new problems, congratulations. You've already experienced systems thinking in action. The world doesn't operate in neat, linear cause and effect chains. Everything is connected, often in ways that aren't obvious at first glance. That's where systems thinking comes in. It's a way of understanding the big picture, identifying how different elements interact, and making better decisions in a world that refuses to sit still. So, let's break it down. What exactly is systems thinking? Why does it matter? And how can you use it to avoid unintended consequences and make smarter choices? Well, most of us are trained to think linearly. A cause is B, B causes C, and so on. That kind of thinking works fine for simple problems. If your lamp isn't working, you check the bulb. Problem solved. But complex problems like managing an organization, navigating market disruptions, or tackling climate change don't work that way. These are systems with multiple interdependencies, feedback loops, and unintended consequences. Systems thinking is about seeing the whole, rather than just the parts. It helps us recognize that problems are rarely isolated, solving one issue can create new ones, and that patterns in relationships often matter more than individual events. A classic example is traffic congestion. A linear solution would be to build more roads. More roads mean more capacity, right? But in reality, studies show that when you build more roads, more people drive, and before you know it, traffic is just as bad, if not worse. That's called induced demand, and it's a great example of why systems thinking is essential. So why does systems thinking matter? Well, in a world of increasing complexity, systems thinking helps you anticipate second and third order effects before they blindside you. Let's bring this to business. Imagine you're a company trying to cut costs. You decide to lay off customer service reps to save money. But then, customers start getting frustrated with long wait times, which leads to bad reviews, which damages your brand, which reduces sales, which, guess what, hurts revenue even more. Suddenly, your cost-cutting measure has created an even bigger financial problem. That's a classic systemic failure, solving the immediate issue without considering the broader consequences. When you start thinking in systems, you ask bigger, better questions like, what are the ripple effects of this decision? Or, how might this interact with other forces at play? Or, what feedback loops might amplify or counteract this change? Now, speaking of feedback loops, let's talk about how they shape systems. Every system is influenced by feedback loops, cycles of cause and effect that either reinforce or balance change. There are 2 types. First is a reinforcing or positive feedback loops, also known as the snowball effect. These are the loops that amplify change. Growth leads to more growth. Decline leads to more decline. Take social media. The more people engage with a post, the more the algorithm shows it to others, which leads to more engagement, which leads to more visibility. It's a self-reinforcing loop. On the flip side, in business, if a company starts losing customers, it may cut costs to compensate. But cutting costs reduces product quality or service, which causes even more customers to leave. Another reinforcing loop, but in a negative direction. The other type is a balancing or negative feedback loop. These are the stabilizers, the loops that work to keep things steady. They push back when a system strays too far in one direction. Want a simple example? Your body's temperature regulation. If you get too hot, you sweat to cool down. If you get too cold, you shiver to warm up. That's a balancing loop keeping things in check. In business, consider pricing strategy. If prices go too high, customers stop buying, which forces companies to lower prices again. The market corrects itself, another balancing loop. The challenge is recognizing which loops are at play and whether they're driving positive transformation or leading to a downward spiral. All right, so how do you put this into practice? Here are 3 simple ways to start applying systems thinking right now. The first way is to zoom out before you act. Before making a big decision, take a step back and map out the wider system. Who or what will be impacted? What unintended consequences could arise? Are you solving the root cause or just a symptom? For example, if employee turnover is high, instead of just offering retention bonuses, ask, why are people leaving in the first place? The answer might not be money. It could be culture, leadership, or workload. Second is to look for feedback loops. Is there a pattern of growth that could accelerate, or a vicious cycle that could spiral? When making decisions, ask, am I feeding a reinforcing loop or triggering a balancing loop? If you're launching a new product, think about how adoption might snowball or where it might hit resistance. A great product with poor onboarding can get stuck in a balancing loop, while one with network effects, where more users make the product more valuable, can enter a reinforcing loop. The third way is to expect delays and side effects. In systems, cause and effect don't always happen instantly. A decision today might have ripple effects months or years later. Don't just measure immediate outcomes, watch for long-term shifts. For instance, a company might think they're doing great after an aggressive marketing push, until 6 months later when customer churn spikes because expectations weren't met. You can see that systems thinking isn't just a theoretical exercise. It's a superpower in navigating complexity. The best strategists, business leaders, and futurists don't just react to change. They anticipate how things connect and interact over time. So here's your challenge. Pick a problem you're dealing with right now, big or small, and think about it systemically. Think critically and ask, what are the hidden forces shaping it? Are there feedback loops making it better or worse? And what happens if you change one part of the system? If you start looking at the world this way, you'll make better decisions, avoid unintended consequences, and position yourself to shape the future instead of just responding to it. That's it for today's episode of Think Forward Foundations. If you're enjoying the series, go back and check out previous episodes where we lay the groundwork for better futures thinking. And stick around, because next time we'll explore how to cultivate a futures mindset. So you don't just think about the future, you start living it. Until then, stay curious and always think forward.
Thanks for listening to the Think Forward podcast. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms and at www.thinkforwardshow.com, as well as on YouTube under Think Forward Show. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the show. Now, about that thing I mentioned earlier about the book Super Shifts. Imagine having a playbook to navigate what's coming next. That's exactly why I wrote Super Shifts, to help you understand and prepare for the seismic changes shaping our world. Don't just react. Get ahead. Super Shifts is available now, wherever you get your books. And if you order today, you'll get exclusive bonus content. Head to supershiftsbook.com and grab your copy now and start future-proofing your life. The future won't wait. Why should you?